The antique clock above Henderson's Market's door struck 11:55 p.m. when the bell jingled. I groaned internally, rubbing my tired eyes. 5 minutes to closing, and now a customer. The night had been dead silent until now. Not even Mrs. Pembroke had come by for her usual Thursday night herbal tea. He entered without a sound, a gaunt man in a yellowed trench coat that smelled of damp earth and something metallic, like old coins left in the rain. Water dripped from his sleeves, though I'd just swept the bone-dry sidewalk 30 minutes ago. "Store closes at midnight," I called out, forcing politeness through my exhaustion. No response. He moved toward aisle 3 with unnatural gliding steps. That made no sound on the creaky floorboards. The security camera above him fizzed with static as he passed beneath it, the red recording light flickering erratically. Curious, I checked the grainy monitor. His image distorted violently, stretching and pixelating, but in person, he stood perfectly still before our nostalgia shelf, the one with discontinued products from the 90s that Dad refused to discard, claiming they'd come back in style someday. "Sir? We're closing soon." My voice cracked slightly. His head rotated toward me with an audible crack pop of vertebrae. Moonlight from the front windows reflected in his eyes. No whites, just solid black orbs that seemed to drink in the light rather than reflect it. The store's ambient noises cut off simultaneously. The freezer's familiar hum died mid-cycle. The fluorescent buzz silenced. Even the antique clock's ticking ceased. Only my pounding heartbeat remained, thundering in my ears. Then came the wet thuds from the storage room. 3 slow, deliberate impacts, then 2 quick ones. The exact pattern Dad had drunkenly described when telling me about old man Henderson's disappearance back in '92. The stranger's lips peeled back, revealing tiny, needle-like teeth that glistened unnaturally in the dim light. "Your father owes a debt," he rasped, voice like dry leaves crunching underfoot. 12 years overdue." The lights died with a sizzling pop. When the emergency lighting flickered on 30 seconds later, I stood alone, gripping a rusted sledgehammer. That hadn't been there before, its head caked with something dark and flaky that fluttered to the floor when I trembled. On the counter lay a yellowed time card from October 31st, 1992, signed by my father with a shaky "approved" and a coffee stain in the shape of a screaming face. Buried secret, sir. The next morning, I stormed into Dad's apartment above the store, the time card clutched in my sweaty hand. His coffee mug shattered. When he saw it, dark liquid spreading across the linoleum like blood. "You weren't supposed to see him until 2024, he whispered, wiping sweat from his brow with a shaking hand. His face had gone the color of spoiled milk. Dad led me to a hidden wall panel behind his dresser, his breathing ragged. Inside were carefully preserved newspaper clippings documenting strange events every 12 years, like clockwork. 92. Night. Clark vanished during inventory. Last seen mopping aisle 31980. Delivery man found incoherent in aisle 3, babbling about The Watcher. 1968. Unexplained freezer malfunction killed stockboy. Coroner noted unusual lividity patterns. 1956. Original owner Henderson disappeared. Store closed for renovations for exactly 12 days. The most chilling was the original 1956 property deed with handwritten amendments in faded ink, including a clause requiring nightly offerings to ensure continued business prosperity, and a list of names with dates spaced exactly 12 years apart. The most recent entry was my name, dated next month. The original owner made a pact, Dad explained, hands trembling so badly he could barely light his cigarette. 12 years of prosperity, in exchange for... He exhaled smoke violently. Well, you've met him now. A cold realization slithered down my spine. 1992, 2004, 2016. I'd interrupted the cycle. The ledger showed our most profitable years matched exactly with the disappearances. The bargain. That night at 11:45 p.m., I prepared my offering at the register, the store's original leather-bound ledger containing every transaction since 1956, its pages filled with generations of customer signatures. The air grew thick with the scent of ozone and something older like opened grave dirt. Midnight approached. The temperature plummeted so fast my breath fogged the air. Frost crawled up the register screen in intricate vein-like patterns. The security monitors all showed static now, except one, aisle 3, where shadows moved without. Oh, source! He emerged from the darkness between the shelves, trenchcoat now dripping black sludge that sizzled where it hit the floor. In his right hand, the same rusted sledgehammer. In his left, a familiar blue apron, identical to the one our missing clerk wore in newspaper photos, still stained with something brown at the collar. "The scales must balance," he intoned, voice echoing from the walls themselves. The PA system. Even the old radio in the break room, remembering Dad's warning, "Don't run. Don't fight. Offer something of equal value." I placed the ledger on the counter with trembling hands. "A record of every soul who's shopped here since 1956, I declared, surprised at the steadiness in my voice. "Names, addresses, purchasing, habits, more than enough to settle the debt." The lights strobed violently, bulbs exploding in showers of sparks. When the emergency lighting stabilized, the ledger was gone. So was the figure. Only 2 items remained on the counter. My employee badge with a new expiration date stamped in what looked like dried blood, 10/31/2036-2. A single line added, "To our store rules whiteboard in handwriting none of us recognized. Aisle 3 remains closed after dark. Management is not responsible for lost items." Epilogue. Business booms these days. Customers rave about our old-school charm and how the store feels like stepping back in time. Funny how no one comments on the new security camera we installed. In aisle 3, the one that somehow always shows static between midnight and 1 a.m. Dad retired to Arizona last month. Says the desert air helps him sleep. He still calls every Sunday, always before sunset. I manage nights now. The new girl, Jessica, thinks I'm weird for how seriously I take the closing checklist. She'll learn. Every October I triple-check the locks and make sure the nostalgia shelf stays fully stocked, and when the clock nears midnight, I turn my back to aisle 3 and pretend not to hear the faint drip, drip, drip coming from its shadows or the occasional sound of something heavy being dragged across the linoleum. After all, the store's been in our family for generations, and family takes care of its own.